This is a reconstructed Neanderthal skeleton, and generally speaking, the skeleton is very similar to ours. Having said that, there are definite differences. The shape of all the bones is subtly different, and anywhere that muscles attach on this skeleton is much more prominent than it would be in a modern human. So this would have been a person who was much more heavily muscled, generally much more rugged looking than us today. They would have been formidable competitors. So Neanderthals were tougher and better cold adapted than us, and some of them even had bigger brains than modern humans. On the face of it then, it seems quite surprising that our species lasted very long at all. So how did we overcome the Neanderthals? Maybe our tools and weapons were just better than theirs. Well, for decades, that's exactly what the experts thought. But this idea hadn't been thoroughly tested until now. So how are you doing?
Oh, doing all right.
Bruce Bradley and Metin Erin spent over a year making thousands of basic cutting tools. So we've got these two tools. This one, a basic tool made by a Neanderthal, and this one, a basic tool made by a modern human at the same sort of period.
Correct.
Now, they're obviously very different looking. This one's long and thin, and this one is round. But are they different in terms of function, in terms of what they're used for?
They were used for the same kind of tasks, mostly cutting tasks.
So, for example, I mean, both are really sharp. If you want to use both of those to cut, some pretty thick leather here.
This is a typical Neanderthal tool.
Exactly. You can see that it just cuts through this really thick leather very easily.
That is incredibly sharp. Look at that. Wow.
And this is really tough leather.
Effective, isn't it?
So,
That's brilliant.
yeah. Now let's try the blade.
Hold it very carefully.
Yes. This is the sort of thing that was made by modern humans.
Exactly.
If anything, I would say that flake is a bit, I mean, that's cutting, but just, you know, just picking up the tool and using it immediately, I'd say the flake's actually a little bit easier to use.
When we created thousands of tools, we found that the technology of the Neanderthals actually produced more cutting edge overall. It wasted less raw material, and you could produce more tools than the blade cores of modern Homo sapiens.
Now, Metin, that's very new, isn't it? That's quite remarkable, because you're telling me that the Neanderthal technology is just as good, in fact, if not better, than the modern humans. I mean, that goes against everything that people have said for the last few decades.
That's true, and it was a very exciting result.
It's just one study on one aspect of tool making. But I still think it's important. This is fascinating, and it means that the long-standing theory about modern human technology being superior to Neanderthal stone tools just doesn't stand up. I'm in Gibraltar, a naval stronghold for centuries, and new evidence from these rocky shores suggests that thousands of years after they disappeared from the rest of Europe, the Neanderthals were clinging on here. When Neanderthals lived here, sea levels were up to 100 metres lower, so much of the evidence from that time could be underwater.
Let's go forward now.
A team of specialists is probing the ocean floor, looking for traces of the Gibraltar Neanderthals. We've come to a stop now because we are over the archaeological site. It's about 20 metres below the surface of the sea below us. Divers are all getting ready, and these are divers but also archaeologists, so they're going to be excavating the sea bottom in search of Neanderthals. These divers are up against poor visibility with a limited oxygen supply. Underwater archaeology is always challenging. But Clive Finlayson has already made a series of significant discoveries in the sea caves nearby.
This is where the last Neanderthals made their last stand, if you like, 24,000 years ago. We get the feeling it's the nearest thing to Neanderthal city you're going to find anywhere. We've got fossils, stone tools, animals that have been butchering, all kinds of evidence, hearths, Neanderthal barbecues, if you like. It's a very, very special site.
They think that Neanderthals may have held on here long after they'd been wiped out in the rest of Europe. But after the Neanderthals finally disappeared from Gibraltar, there was a gap of 5,000 years before we turned up. So it looks as though whatever finally killed Neanderthals off, it wasn't us. What do you think eventually wiped them out?
It may have been a numbers game. There's so few left, as would happen to populations of endangered species today, like the panda or tiger. Just random fluctuations in numbers can bring it down to zero, and there's no recovery from zero. So it could have been that. It could have been disease, inbreeding, a whole range of factors that can affect a small population and knock them over the edge.
I find it very moving to think that one day the last Neanderthal might have been sitting here, staring out to sea, and perhaps waiting for their companions to return. Or maybe he or she knew that they were the last of their tribe or their family, but they can't have known that they were the last of their entire species. So that was the end of the Neanderthals. Or was it? Some scientists believe their descendants are still walking around today. If our ancestors interbred with them, some of us could be part Neanderthal. But they may not have survived at all had it not been for this. The rock shelters and caves that riddle the landscape. And deep underground, they left something that we still marvel at today. I'm in a cave called Peshmerl, which is stunningly beautiful naturally, but look at this. This is real artistic expression, something that defines us and sets us apart as a species. And Peshmerl is unusual because artists were coming here to paint these images both before and after the peak of the last ice age. Generations of them returning to the cave as the world outside froze over. This is a very beautiful image, and it uses the contours of the rock. The horse's back sort of curves along a bulge in the rock, and there's an echo of the horse's head on this right side there. And it's obviously a very stylised horse as well. And I love the way those spots carry on into the background, as though the horse is sort of camouflaged against the rock. And there's a hand placed against the rock just above the horse's back. I mean, that is amazing, isn't it? That's an Ice Age hand. Michel Leblanche has devoted his life to studying the art found in caves like Peshmerl. I naively imagined that you'd just take a mouthful of charcoal, bit of water and just spit it at the wall and that would be it. But of course all that would happen would be that the mess would run down the wall and obscure the stencil that you were trying to do. So you have to do it like this, using an almost dry mouth and just building it up very gradually with a fine spray. Monsieur Leblanche did a recreation of the horses at Peshmerl using this technique. It took him a whole week. Is it finished?
Yes.
It's finished?
Yes, that's right.
But what drove these people, struggling just to survive, to paint? The vast majority of these images seem to be animals. There don't seem to be many representations of humans.
No, that's true. They are mainly animal figures. And for them, of course, animals were not only game, but also spirits, symbolic. So the animal figures are, in fact, symbolic figures.
And going into Peshmerl, I mean, it's such a beautiful cave with all the stalactites hanging down. And it does feel as though it was, I don't know, almost a temple.
Yes, that's right. This is a natural temple, if you like. They are sacred sites. They are not painting just for fun. By painting a cave and having a sanctuary, it is a way for them to say, here is our sacred place. A painted cave is a symbolic of the whole tribe.
Being bound together in this way may have helped our ancestors survive the kind of climate change that only haunts our imaginations today.